Ready, Mr. Chaffin?
I'm ready, thank you.
All right. We'll call this meeting to order. The governor has declared a state of emergency to exist in California as a result of a threat of COVID-19. While the governor recently issued executive orders N-721, which lifted certain orders and associated restrictions, there are still public health directives in place. The public health and well-being is top priority for the city of Yuba City, and you are encouraged to take all appropriate health and safety precautions. This meeting is utilizing Zoom application for this live broadcast. For this meeting, we will be using the question and answers functionality of the tool in order to accommodate public comment. On your device, the question and answer section of the app is located at the bottom of the Zoom screen. For those that would like to comment during this meeting, please enter your comment into the question and answers portion of the app and be sure to state the item you will be commenting on. During the public comment of each item, staff will read aloud comments provided by the public for all to hear for that specific item. Can we have roll call, please?
Mayor Shaw,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kirchner,
Here.
Councilmember Baumgarten, Councilmember Espandola,
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
All righty, thank you. Mr. Chaffin, would you please read our closed session items this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are 3 items for closed session. Item A is confer with real property negotiated pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. The property is a public utility easement on APN 23-110-007, located on the east side of Garden Highway at Stewart Road, 2700 Garden Highway, Yuba City, California, 95991. The negotiator is Diana Langley, City Manager. The negotiating parties are Michael Dennis Netherby and Ann Sheely Netherby. Under negotiation is the price and terms of the payment. Closed session item B is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency designated representatives are Diana Langley, City Manager, Natalie Springer, Human Resources Director, Brad McIntyre, Community Services Director, Spencer Morrison, Finance Director, Ben Moody, Public Works and Development Services Director, Brian Baker, Chief of Police, Jesse Alexander, Fire Chief, and Michael Jarvis, LCS. Employee organizations are Yuba City Fire Police, Yuba City Police Officers, Police Sergeants, Yuba City Firefighters, Local 3793, Yuba City Fire Management, First Level Manager, Mid-Managers, Police Sworn Mid-Managers, and Public Employees, Local Number 1. Unrepresented employees are confidential employees, Executive Services employees. Item 3C of the closed session is threats to public services or facilities pursuant to Government Code Section 54957A, consultation with Director of Finance, IT, Police Chief, City Manager, and City Attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaffin. Is there any one that'd like to speak on any of the closed items agenda? Please go to the podium.
Hi, I'll get to why I'm speaking at the closed session in a moment. So first, my name's Heather Esserman. I live in the city of Yuba City on Lincoln Road.
Heather, I'm sorry, is your microphone on?
Yes, it is. I just have a tradition of not sticking that straight in my face. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So, esteemed council and staff of the city of Yuba City, before I start, I'd like to read a few quotes to you for inspiration. Leadership is an action, not a position. The key to successful leadership is influence, not authority. True leadership is based on inspiration, not domination, on cooperation, not intimidation. Until this year, the former mayors Harris and Baumgarten have done an excellent job of reflecting these principles, and I commend them for their patience and their sincerity in providing leadership and guidance to the city with compassionate heart, even making tough decisions that impacted their own future political careers. I'm speaking to you now before the closed session in the hope that this body, and specifically the mayor, get some clarity from legal counsel on what I have to say, and I have labored long and hard on how to say this. So Mayor Shaw, you have no legal right to limit my speech during public comments. Under the Brown Act, the public is entitled to comment on any matter within the subject matter jurisdiction of the legislative body as well as any agenda item. To be precise, AB 1787 or Section 54954.3 of California Government Code states that every agenda for regular meetings shall provide an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the legislative body on any item of interest to the public before or during the legislative body's consideration of the item that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the legislative body. Further, the legislative body of a local agency shall not prohibit public criticism of the policies, procedures, programs, or services of the agency. In translation, this means that you, Mr. Mayor, can make a request during a meeting to stay on a specific topic, to avoid discussing politics, or even to require decent language to be used. but you cannot tell me or anyone else at this podium what I can or cannot say if it addresses a topic within your jurisdiction. In the recent past, this council has allowed others in the public to discuss their distaste for Governor Newsom, mask or vaccine mandates, and even politically defaming a county board member up for re-election for their own political gain, all of which is not within this body's jurisdiction and could have been limited but wasn't. However, when I expressed my support for a member of this council as I criticized your decision, Mr. Mayor, on commission assignments, even offering my support for her campaign if she chooses to run again, knowing that I cannot vote for her as I am not in her district, it was met by you with harsh words in your attempt to limit my free speech. I will agree that special meetings are slightly different, stating that every notice for a special meeting, this is a quote, every notice for a special meeting shall provide an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the legislative body concerning any item that has been described in the notice for the meeting before or during consideration of that item. As the agenda is the form taken by the city to give notice, and the agendas of late have been lacking clarity, you, Mr. Mayor, cannot be surprised if someone comes prepared to the meeting for a homeless workshop to discuss homeless issues like the need for low-income housing and not what you wanted to be discussed that evening. If you
Are
want
you
the
just
public
about
to
done,
stay
Ms.
on a
Ashman?
very specific topic, you have to give us the topic 72 hours in advance of the meeting as stated
Your
in
time is
California
up, Ms.
law.
Asman.
This intimidation of me and the public has to stop, and it has to stop now, Mr. Mayor. And although it is not on the closed session agenda, I am sure that your legal counsel can advise you
Okay.
on how
Ms.
to discuss
Asman, your
this
time
matter
is up.
in a manner that
Please
does not break
vacate
the
the
law.
podium.
To the others of the council, please keep up the good work for our community. Thank you.
Okay. The only response that that deems is that was completely out of order, as we were asking for comments on closed session. And with that, is there any more comments on closed session?
No public comment.
All right. With that, we will adjourn to closed session. All right. We will call this regular meeting back to order. Bear with me here for a second as we read. The governor has declared a state of emergency to exist in California as a result of the threat of COVID-19. While the governor issued Executive Order N-721, which lifted certain orders and associated restrictions, there are still public health directives in place. The public's health and well-being are the top priority of the city of Yuba City, and you're urged to take all appropriate health and safety precautions. This meeting is utilizing the Zoom application for the live broadcast. For this meeting, we will be using the question and answers functionality of this tool in order to accommodate public comment. On your device, the question and answer section of the app is located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For those that would like to comment during this meeting, please enter your comment into the questions and answers portion of the app and be sure to state the item you will be commenting on. During the public comment of each item, staff will read aloud the comments provided by the public for all to hear for that specific item. Be timely with your questions, as once the public hearing is closed or the item has been discussed by council and voted on, no more comments will be accepted on that item. Can I have roll call, please?
Mayor Shaw,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kirchner,
Here.
Councilmember Boomgarden,
Here.
Councilmember Espandola. Here. Councilmember Harris.
Here.
All right. This evening, if we can have the invocation by George Barlow, and followed if Nick, you are home from the military. Nick Morris, would you lead us in the pledge following the invocation this evening? Okay, please stand.
Let us pray. Our Lord, Father in heaven, we humbly pray for each council member and the decisions that they will make tonight. We pray for a measure of wisdom upon them and that they may guide their thoughts. We pray for our city's first responders, each one of them, who at moment's notice will put their lives on the line for us, the citizens of Yuba City. We pray for a comfort and peace over their families, members who worry about them, whether it's a brother, sister, husband, wife, or child. We pray for those who serve to keep this city running daily. We thank you for your mighty hand upon us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Salute. Pledge. Thank you. And Nick, welcome home, sir. So, all right. Let the record reflect that Councilmember Baumgarten was present in closed session at 5:10. And would our city attorney, would you report on actions taken in closed session tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was no reportable action taken in closed session.
All right, thank you. Is there any agenda modifications, or does it stand as is? Okay, hearing none, the agenda stands. We will go to our first item on the agenda tonight, which is the recognition for Women's History Month. And I'd like to invite Lynn Hale, Lucina Arredondo, did I get it correct? Lakina, okay. I almost had to defer. Colleen Morris, Cindy Applegarth, and Cynthia Rachel. If you'll join us down front, please. With the council. All right. Did it kick? There we go. It kicked on then. So isn't this an amazing group of ladies that are up here with us tonight? So yeah, go ahead and give them a round of applause. During the this past month of March for Women's History Month, each of us brought forward one person out of the community that we wanted to be recognized, as we felt that they represented a cross-section of our community and how great it is. So these were the 5 that were brought forward this year. And I'm just going to start it off, and we're each going to say why we brought forward the person that we did, and then we'd like for each of you to just say something about yourself. And mine was real simple. Cindy Applegarth. All you had to do is pay attention to Facebook when it posted out there that you were being recognized by the city. Incredible mother, incredible businesswoman, and the things that you've given back to this community, both Yuba City, Sutter. I mean, the legacy's in your family, and I'm honored to know you and call you my friend, and thank you for letting us recognize you.
Well, obviously, my name is Cindy Applegarth, and my husband and I own Don's Furniture. We have 3 amazing sons. We're proud to be born and raised here in Yuba City area, and lived here our whole life, and hopefully all of our kids one will make his way back. The other 2 are still here. So I'm humbled and honored to be in this group of people tonight, these ladies, and I thank you very much, Dave, for the nomination.
Good evening. It's my great privilege to introduce Lynn Hale. Lynn Hale is the accounting manager for the city. I've known her for probably most of her career. She's had a lot of titles, so I want to make sure I got that right. So Lynn's responsibility within the city is that of helping with the budgeting and then managing the budgets in the finance department. I selected Lynn because she has been not only a fantastic team member for the city. But her guidance, expertise, and professionalism with the budget are above reproach. And for some to have that asset within the city of Yuba City is just a tremendous thing. I know you're getting ready to leave shortly, which is going to be a big loss, but Lynn Hale is a fantastic asset to the city of Yuba City. Please join me in thanking her and for her selection this evening and for all the hard work she's done for 16 years? 16 years, okay. Wait, let me, before we applause. I know she really wants to talk too.
Yeah, he knows me well. I do not speak. But I do want to thank you, Mark, for this nomination, and to all my fellow members up here that are representing just wonderful asset to the community. I am so privileged to work for the city of Yuba City, and I am going to miss it terribly. But I will always be around, of course, to help. So thank you very much.
This is such a beautiful event to share with the community of the power of us women and the strength of women. And honestly, this cannot be done without the support of gentlemen. And so each council member, vice mayor, and mayor, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for standing with us and supporting all the things that we do every single day. But Colleen is like the most biggest heart in the entire community. There is such a generous place in you all the time. When anybody asks for help or needs help, Colleen's the first to show up and be there. But what is even more extraordinary is that she is extremely smart. She is a businesswoman who runs her own accounting and does tremendous business for many people. I think several of you may be in this room, right? Raise your hand if you've done business with Colleen or you want to do business with Colleen, because she is extraordinary. And I've seen her with her husband and your son, Nick. And your son is the biggest asset of any aspect of who you are. And for him to be here today with you to share is just heartwarming. So tell us more about you.
Well, first off, I am a proud Army mom. So that's like the biggest thing right now. I do own a business here in Yuba City, and I really wouldn't have it any other way. I'm 8 years in business now. And this has been a wonderful community to have a business in, raise a family in, and it is definitely due to the staff, the leadership, just the community itself. They all come together so much, so it really is a special place to be in Yuba City.
Good evening. My name is Wade Kirshner. My nominee is Cynthia Rachel. When asked to nominate one woman in this community, how do you do that? And so, because my point is we have many, and so one of the organizations that's near and dear to my heart is Casa de Esperanza. And for those of you that know that organization, it is a noble cause because it helps women who need help. And that's just one of the things that Cynthia does, along with working with Back the Badge. I've got my bracelet on here, which is another noble organization. And she's a fellow Wildcat, Chico Wildcat, which I appreciate as well. And so thank you. And you're here with your family, I apologize. And so she's a proud mother of two. And thank you for everything you've done for our community.
So I fell into Yuba City. I've been here 15 years, and I had never heard of it before I went to college, and my best friend grew up here, and I was like, where is this? Like, what are you talking about? And then she left the state, and I moved to Yuba City. And so she, she thinks that, she escaped her hometown, but I really fell in love with it. After I got over the initial shock of, I can't believe I'm moving here, because I teased her about it all the time, and now it's home, and I love it, and the more I get involved in it, the more incredible you can see the people here care. We've seen through Back the Badge, especially when Officer Gordon was injured, the outpouring of support was remarkable, and it was just the people here. So thank you for making this a great hometown to call, or a great place to call home. Thank you.
All right, last but not least, this is Lakina Arredondo, and she is remarkable in that she works tirelessly for the benefit of our children here locally. She has a master's degree in counseling and therapy. She is a licensed therapist for Youth for Change, which is a contract organization with different counties, different agencies to help provide therapy and counseling and support for children who are disadvantaged or just need that extra push to keep them within the guardrails and keep things and stabilize their life. I have witnessed her personally. The therapy, as you know, probably, especially in her role, is not a 8-to-5 thing. Crisis can happen 24/7. And Lakina has stepped up. Doesn't matter what time, doesn't matter what day, doesn't matter what she's doing. She has stepped up for the benefit of her clients, oftentimes at personal sacrifice and even probably expense. She won't admit that. But she works hard, very hard, and all for the good of our community and our children and their futures. And it's my privilege to recommend her and nominate her to be here this evening. You can tell she's not really comfortable right now, but that's okay. That's okay. And so thank you very much for everything you do, and no doubt will continue to do for our community children and the community as a whole, Lakina. You work very hard. I'm very proud of you. Here you go.
Well, he likes to get people emotional, but yeah, I am an introvert. My name's Lakina Arredondo. I am a full-service partnership clinician for Youth for Change. I've been doing that for almost 4 years. Prior to that, I worked at a Children's Hope Foster Agency as a social worker and worked at Adventist Right Out and Live Oak Unified School District. So I've been around town providing services, but I've been very fortunate to be able to just help the clients and families in needs. And I am, outside of work, I am a dance mom to a 10-year-old, and that takes a lot of time. But I do want to appreciate you all for this opportunity and award.
Well, we can see exactly how my instructions go over so well, because I mentioned to everybody before we came in. Briefly give 20 seconds to introduce the person. I tried to keep it under 20, and it got like 3 minutes at the end here. So it's good to know we all follow instructions well. But with this, tonight, each of you are being presented with a profile that we did for you from the city. So that just want you guys to know that you are greatly appreciated, and you guys are a true representation of the women of our community. So thank you. We got more. And, whoops, I've got it on my shirt. Yes. All right, the second item is a company that's been part of our community for a long time, and that is Valley Truck and Tractor. And I'd like to invite John Miller and the family to come forward. And actually, I'm going to do something that's unscripted, unrehearsed, but I think it's really fitting because you guys have had a huge connection in our community for a heck of a long time. And I appreciate you giving us back our former mayor so he can actually work for the city. But Mark, I would like you to come up and give this presentation tonight, my friend, please. You worked with these gentlemen and you're the former mayor. It may say myself, but would you do us the honors? Here, you can use mine.
All right. So this might be a little difficult. Valley Truck and Tractor, 72 years of business here in the community. Whereas in 1948, Henry Miller Sr. originally established a Northern California retailer of ag machinery as an international harvester dealership and founded Valley Truck and Tractor. In 1985, they were bought out by Case Management, which led the Miller family to acquire the local John Deere dealership here in the Yuba City and Robbins locations. From 2000 to 2012, they acquired John Deere dealerships in Woodland, Dixon, Chico, Gridley, Willows, Colusa, and they established a store in Elk Grove, as well as establishing corporate headquarters here in Yuba City. This expansion into the Sacramento Valley was the key to the success of their business and to Northern California. Valley Truck and Tractor's vision statement: Valley Truck and Tractor Company aspires to be the premier agricultural, turf, and commercial dealer. They have proven this by being named the Farm Equipment's 2117 Dealership of the Year. That's out of all the farm dealerships in all across the United States. There are many challenges in the ag business, especially in California. Valley Truck and Tractor stood the test of time, delivering quality equipment, service, and parts to the region's farming industry. Relationships with their customers was always a very top priority. Valley Truck and Tractor's ownership group of John Miller, Henry Miller Jr., Sam Miller, and John's son, Matt, has operated business that employed numerous Yuba City residents and consistently contributed to the local economy as well as charitable organizations and causes. In December of 2021, Valley Truck and Tractor sold their business after a long and always profitable 72 years of existence. Congratulations on your business model, the numerous locations throughout Northern California, and having built a successful company that serviced the regions and that kept America fed. Thank a farmer, farmer strong. Now, therefore, well, you can read that.
He could have continued on, but now therefore be it resolved that I, Dave Shaw, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, on behalf of our entire City Council, do hereby congratulate Valley Truck and Tractor for their successful business of 72 years and their contribution to the economic growth and prosperity in Yuba City. Let's give them a hand.
I'd just like to say that, it's been a wonderful 72 years. It was time that we moved on to other things, and hopefully with Pape machinery coming in and taking our spot, we leave it in good hands, that they'll take care of the farmers, the customers, the citizens of Yuba City and all of the Sacramento Valley, too. Thank you.
No, I'm just going to say that when you think of tractors and think of agriculture, go green, okay? Think the color green. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Duly noted. We bought one about 3 months ago. So, so with that, we can come on in for a photo. We got one more. Okay. And the next is we have a proclamation for Community College Month, and we're going to honor our own Yuba College. So I would like to invite the representatives from Yuba College to come forward. Dr. Tani Dotson, who is the president. Jeremy Brown, who's vice president for instruction. Dr. Dwayne Hunt, vice president of student services. Annabelle Tochi, Dean of Student Success and Institutional Effectiveness, and any of the trustees of the board that is here as well. First of all, I think this is great for us to be able to honor Yuba College, because I know that when I came to California, I graduated from Yuba College, and I think Mark went to Yuba College, didn't he? Yeah, you got all 5 of us went to Yuba College, so that should say a lot right there. So I should say we left it standing too. So. So anyway, we're here tonight to honor Yuba College as April 2022 as the Community College Month. And whereas the California Community College is the largest system of higher education in the country with more than 2.1 million students, are an essential resource for the state of California, its people, its economy, and the richness and accessibility of American higher education. Nearly half of all undergraduate college students in the nation today are enrolled in community colleges. And the California community colleges provide excellent educational offerings for students wishing to transfer to the California State University, the University of California, and independent colleges and universities. Community colleges provide higher education for all students, including those with the fewest resources and greatest risk. And the California community colleges serve the state in 114 communities and online with innovative programs, as 65% of jobs in the United States require some type of college credential or degree. By providing educational opportunities at cost and locations accessible to all who are qualified, community colleges have greatly enhanced the opportunity for every ambitious student, young or old, to enter a post-secondary education program. As a community-based institution, got to flip the page. Yuba College responds to the diverse educational, cultural, and economic needs of our community by promoting individual potential through effective teaching and learning in an inclusive environment. This community is served well by Yuba College. During the 2020-21 academic year, Yuba College served 7,082 students and granted 813 degrees and 170 certificates. Yuba College is commended for continuing to serve students during the pandemic. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Dave Shaw, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, and on behalf of our entire City Council, do hereby recognize and commend Yuba College for its outstanding contributions to Yuba City and proclaim April 2022 as California Community College Month in the City of Yuba City, and encourage the community to recognize the thousands of students who attend Yuba College and the dedicated faculty and staff who serve them. Let's give them a hand.
Mayor Shaw, thank you. Members of the Yuba City Council, thank you so much. On behalf of Trustees Teagarden and Delgado, the hundreds of employees and thousands of students who live and work here in Yuba-Sutter, we appreciate the opportunity to recognize the mission that we play here in this community. The community college mission is unique. It's open access. It means that anyone who wants to seek higher education can design a journey to come to Yuba College, where we will meet them where they are and empower and support them to get to where they want to be. And that's important. It's important because a more educated workforce is a more employable workforce for our business and our industry and our economy. It's important because a more educated workforce is tied to more positive health outcomes for our community as well. It's our pledge that we will continue to come to the table with our hands out and full of opportunities and ways that we can contribute to address the city and our county's challenges with the goal, I think the shared goal, to elevate Yuba-Sutter. We appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Thank you.
Are we all in now?
Yep. And George is going to take one also.
After all this happens, you know, you got all, you can do something, you're gonna do something else, you know. So that's what I'm up to, yeah. So I mean, after you stop working, I thought you could.
With that, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Feather River West Levee Financing Authority proposed assessment presentation. And that's going to be presented tonight by Mike, is it Inamine? Did I get it correct?
Close enough.
Okay. And Drew Stresser. So you guys have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Shaw, members of the council, for this opportunity to address the council and the public today. My name, again, is Mike Inamina. I'm with HDR. We serve as a consultant to the Feather River West Levee Financing Authority. And I'm joined by Drew Stresser, and I'll let Drew introduce himself.
Andrew Stresser, Levee District 1 General Manager and Levee District 9. Thank you.
So we're going to do a little tag team here, and just I just want to sort of get something out of the way. Feather River West Levee Financing Authority is the agency that is behind this initiative. It's a mouthful, so we refer to it sort of colloquially as FRALIFA, F-R-W-L-F-A. So when you hear me say FRALIFA, I'm referring to the Feather River West Levee Financing Authority. So the subject of this presentation is a proposed assessment to pay for operations and maintenance of levees on the west bank of the Feather River. So the agenda, we're going to go through this fairly quickly with our limited time here. I'm going to give an overview of the issue and the proposed solution, some of the key points that we know people have already been asking about the proposed assessment, the Prop 218 process, which is the process by which voters, those affected by any assessment, vote on the outcome of any proposed assessment, and then the next steps and important contacts. So again, this purpose of this discussion is simply to provide information to the council and to the public on a proposed assessment to adequately fund levee operations and maintenance. The names listed up here are the key points of contact, and I'll leave both in the frequently asked questions, this is the brochure that's out for the public and in front of council members now. These are the names of the folks that are the key points of contact if folks need further detail. So, an overview. For the remainder of this presentation, I'll be speaking to three important questions. And they're the obvious ones, and they will certainly engender much more detailed questions by the council and the public. First of all, what's Frau-Life? What's the issue? What's the proposed solution? Okay, so beginning with the Feather River West Levee Financing Authority. This is a joint powers authority that was formed between Levee District 1, Levee District 9, and Sutter County for the purpose of exploring long-term funding of levee operations and maintenance. Now, the subject levees that we'll be talking about for the remainder of this discussion are the levees that were recently improved, vast majority of levees that were recently improved in Sutter County, extending from Live Oak on the west bank of the Feather River, from Live Oak down to the Sutter Bypass. It's about 27 miles. It's currently maintained by LD1, LD9, and State Maintenance Area 3. That's a state agency. The green crosshatched area that you see in this map are all the areas that are protected by those 27 miles of levees. In other words, those are the areas that receive benefits from continued and successful operations and maintenance of levees. Now, the yellow line just below the top of the green hash mark area are the limits, current limits of Levee District 9. The purple area that's sort of in the center of this map, that's Levee District 1. And then the orange area is State Maintenance Area 3. Now, there's an important point I should make about a state maintenance area. Typically, the state's policy is to accept essentially the operations and maintenance of levees from the federal government, and then what the state does typically is to pass on those responsibilities to local levee agencies like LD1, LD9. But the state bears a certain burden of liability. So if local levee districts don't perform, if they don't fund or finance, the state comes in and unilaterally takes over operations and maintenance, and they impose assessments on those protected. And this is what happened in MA3. This is what happened in MA7. This is what happened in MA16. This is what happened in MA13. These are all state maintenance areas that were formed because local agencies could not operate and maintain or finance those levee districts. I'll bring up why that's important in a bit. So what's the issue? So that's Frau-Life. That's what it is. The issue is simply a matter of funding. Levee Districts 1 and 9 in State Maintenance Area responsible for protecting 25,000 properties, 27 miles of levees recently improved. They are subject to new and strict state federal standards and regulations. They don't have enough money to do that right now under these new standards. Now you may say that's not fair. Well, here's the deal. Those levees were repaired by Sabufka, by the Corps of Engineers, to the tune of over $380 million in the past 8-9 years. And so that funding, largely external funding from the state and feds, doesn't just, show up on your doorstep. It comes with some strings attached. And they're strings that are beneficial to the community. There are additional requirements for that funding in order that funding doesn't get squandered. And one of the key issues is new standards for operations and maintenance. And that is the difference between existing funding under the old rules and new funding required under these new standards. So what's the gap? On an annual basis, this graphic just shows on the lower bar, the existing annual funding under sort of the old paradigm, $621,000. The total required annual funding is $1.9 million, so that leaves a gap of $1.3 million. So the third question, what's the proposed solution? So Frau-Life is proposing an O&M assessment to adequately fund required levee operations and maintenance activities. These would pay, again, for those 20 operations and maintenance of levees extending from Live Oak near Paseo right down to the Sutter Confluence in Maintenance Area 3. I'll describe what the schedule is, but this is not a done deal, certainly. It has to go to a vote of those affected property owners that discretion is with property owners who would pay that proposed assessment. Those ballots would be sent to property owners in April, and balloting would close in June of 2022 this year. Real quick, if I fail to mention this later, is that, again, depending on how the vote goes, even if that assessment would be passed, there's some process to annex MA3, which is a state maintenance area, put it under local control. And that process to do that would take about a year. So those assessments you would not see until 2024. Now, how are these assessments determined? This is complicated. It's lined out in detail in something called the engineer's report, which is now posted on the Frau Levee website. Everybody can download it. Frau Levee held a workshop last month to go through this engineer's report. But basically, the assessment is determined by considering five factors: location of any given property, the land use, acreage, structure size, and contents, and then that is proportioned according to the potential flood risk, or rather the flood depth that results in the estimated assessment. And here's an example of what that looks like, pulled down from the assessment district of a typical single-family home in Yuba City. In this example, a structure has the footprint of 1,100 square feet, property size about 7/10 of an acre, flood depth zone 1, and these are all divided into depths. Zone 1 happens to be 2 to 4 feet of potential flooding. The estimated assessment is $24 a year. So some key points, and I'll turn this over to Drew. Again, property owners decide the outcome of this. There will be a cost regardless of your vote. As I pointed out, is with other state maintenance areas, if a local agency is unable to perform or fund required maintenance, the state, under state law, doesn't have to go to Prop 218, under state law, the state comes in, they take control of levies and impose an assessment. So there is no such thing as a zero cost vote to this. You're either going to pay a local agency, Frau Levee in this case, or you're going to pay the state of California. There's no such thing as a zero cost vote. And finally, a yes vote means local control, consistent, predictable costs, and over the long term, lower cost. A no vote, LD1 and LD9, as you saw in the earlier slide, would eventually go insolvent, as other agencies have in the past. Loss of local control, costs would vary, and an increased long-term cost. So I'm going to turn this over to Drew right now, and he's going to talk about what levy O&M is all about.
Thank you, Mike. Council member, mayor, council members, thank you again for having us today. Andrew Stresser, Levee District 1 and 9, and I'm going to talk about what exactly we do. What is levee districts? So we're a public agency. We're not part of the city. We're not part of the county. All of our general fund goes specifically to O&M of the levees. We're described as a special district, much like a water district, a mosquito district. Each district has 3 directors. Levee District 1 has Chairman Al Montna, Charlie Hoppin, and Gary Marler, and a past director who left already, John Miller. Levee District 9, Chairman Mike Morris, who's with us today, Chris Schmidl, and Bob Sohal. Levee Districts, we provide public safety by operating and maintain the levees and any associated facilities. These funds aren't going to get redirected. They're not going to go to special purpose, specifically for the levees. Levee 1 operates off of 2 assessments. They're a line item on your property tax. If you reside in that purple area, there's 2 assessments on your property tax. The first one was passed in 1986. The most recent assessment was passed in 1999. So it's been 20 plus years since the levee districts has essentially gotten a raise. Our budget, the budget we're proposing today, it covers any of the cost of services and a reasonable reserve for any planned or unplanned events. And I'm going to give you an example of why that reserve is so important. Levee district, we're obligated by the state to maintain a certain amount of gravel on the top of the roads for patrolling during emergency events. If that deteriorates to a certain portion, you have to redo that. The going cost to repair a mile of a patrol road is $100,000 to $150,000. You times that by 27 miles of levees, you can see how quickly that can eat up a budget. The majority of the revenues are from assessments on those property taxes that people pay that benefit. Anyone in the green hash area on the map, those are areas that benefit from the Feather River West levy, and therefore you'll be obligated to pay your fair share. Our costs are for 3 permanent employees. That's including myself. We'd probably end up picking up one more, but that's for 27 miles of levee. Our administrative, our technical, our legal, our engineering, that's all contracted out. So that's paid for as needed. There isn't anybody in-house that you can go reach to. And then any of the fixed costs are our facility and our equipment. So back in 1999, when, and it was probably Mr. Miller who was on the board at that time, these were many of the activities that we planned for, that we budgeted for in 1999. We still do a lot of these activities today, but it's obviously changed. Prices have gone up, there's inflation, gas prices, and we also have all these additional items that we're obligated to perform as well. So I'm not gonna go into depth, but I think you kind of get the picture of what's changed from 1999 until today. There's many areas in this great nation that you can move to. There's lots of natural disasters. You just take your pick. There's earthquakes, there's fires, there's hurricanes, there's tornadoes. In this particular area, it's flooding. And we can actually do something to mitigate that. They can't do that in a lot of these other areas for those events. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Mike, and he's going to talk about the process going forward and the scheduling.
Thanks, Drew. There's just a few more slides, and we'll have some questions. So the way this works is the balloting process, the Prop 218 balloting process is, and I'll get into the schedule, which is one of the later slides. Ballots have to be mailed a minimum 45 days before a public hearing, and benefiting properties only are voting on this proposed assessment. It's weighted by dollar value. In other words, 1 vote per dollar of a proposed assessment, and like I stated earlier, that those assessment values are proportioned based on the depth of flooding. I referenced earlier the engineer's report. Anybody can go to the Fralifa website, and I'll flash the address. You can download the detailed explanation of what goes into these assessment calculations. It's a simple calculation. When the votes are counted, assessment passes if the yes votes outweigh no votes of those submitted. Ballots must be received by close of the public hearing, and if approved by property owners, the assessment may be adopted by the Fralifa board. So these are the important dates, and we'll leave this presentation. This is not the same as the presentation that was handed out earlier, so council members are probably looking at, a fancy graphic. This is not what in there, and I'll leave this with folks. These are the real dates. What's important here is that the board meeting, or that just very quickly, there was a draft engineer's report public review that I described earlier in March. There was a board meeting that is simply a Prop 218 required notice of intent to propose an assessment. Ballots will be mailed on May 6th. There is a public meeting, an open house that will be at the Veterans Auditorium right next door on May 10th. A board meeting where, again, an opportunity for public comment, protests on June 22nd. Balloting would be closed at the conclusion of that meeting, and then a week later, an announcement of whatever the outcome of that vote was. So these are sort of this is probably the most important slide, and these are left on the FAQs, and we'll leave it in the presentation. We have a hotline. Don't be dismayed when you receive a voicemail. We respond to anybody who leaves a message within 1 or 2 days. You can also email info@fraulifa.org, and we will respond to those promptly as well. Finally, you can go to the website. What's important about the website is you can look up your proposed assessment. You can punch in your APN, your parcel number, and this is what the website looks like. If you look at Proposed Assessment 2022 in the bottom left quadrant, and you'll come up with a website calculator. You punch in your APN, and you'll come up with the assessment. So finally, and this is the last slide, the key points: property owners decide their fate. There will be a cost regardless of your vote. Just means that you're either going to be paying a local district or you're going to be paying state of California. Your vote determines if costs are imposed by the state or decided by local interests. If it's decided to go locally, that's local control. Otherwise, it reverts to the state. So that's the conclusion of our presentation. If there are any questions, Drew and I'd be happy to respond.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for being here. I know that myself and Councilmember Baumgarten got to hear you over at the chamber presentation. And so it's good that you guys are reaching out. And my big takeaway from that, and I want to see if I reiterate this correctly, is there's going to be an assessment either way. It's just dependent upon how big the assessment's going to be and whether or not we want to be in charge of the maintenance of our levees or rely on the state as a whole. That was the big takeaways I had from your presentation. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yeah, you said it much more succinctly than I spent a lot of time on, but that's exactly right.
Because I know some people were like, if we vote no, then there's no assessment. No, there is an assessment coming. It's just whether or not we want to have local control, as we have all talked about over the past 2 years especially, or not over varied things. So I will open it up to council member questions. Councilmember Baumgarten.
Through the mayor, thanks to Mike B. and Mike I. Thank you for your role in creating these safe 200-year levees, by the way. These guys were part of the initial Sabufka or Sutter Butte's Flood Control Agency. So they gave us the protection. And then Mr. Stresser back there, he inherits the job of keeping them safe. So thank you for all you guys do. A couple quick questions. Just following up, as the mayor said, listening to your previous presentation, the existing assessments go away and these take the place of those. So we're not stacking here. It's one assessment.
That's correct. So when as I said, there's a bit of a process that is actually contingent on successful passage or not of the assessment that takes place after the election and would take about a year, at which point those assessments, existing assessments, for example, the 2 assessments in LD1 would be superseded. They'd go away, replaced by this.
Second question is duration. Is there a sunset on these assessments, or are these hanging on forever so we don't have to go through this all the time?
No, there is, well, first of all, the answer is no. There's no sunset on this. This is operations and maintenance. It is, for better or for worse, a forever cost, as opposed to the Sabufka assessment, which was a capital project, and it's got a sunset of 20 years or thereabouts. I'm looking to the executive director of Sabufka. The operations and maintenance assessment goes on, and it has an escalation clause in it in order to keep up with inflation so that you're potentially not revisiting this.
Final is, thank you for putting forward for this. I think local control with folks that we live, work, and hang around with is vitally important to our levees, rather than hand them off to someplace else that may not have the vested interests of the safety of the levees that we all live behind. So I think this is vitally important for this community to consider when they're voting, is we want folks who are here taking care of the stuff that is here if we can do so. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. And I wanted to mention, too, that with regard to local interest in this, and as many of you know, this was a big deal, and many of you were around for this back in 2010-11, is that the big push under new state law that was passed in 2007 is maintenance, operations and maintenance of 200-year certification in order to allow communities of Live Oak and Yuba City to develop and grow wisely behind 200-year level certified levees. If you don't operate and maintain it, that goes away. In addition, FEMA NFIP insurance is contingent on adequate operations and maintenance. If you live here, you got a bigger stake in the game than, say, Sacramento. Thank you.
Councilwoman Espandola.
Through the mayor, thank you. Excellent presentation. It was very clear to what is needing to be done for our levies. I have a couple of questions. One is the amount of miles left on the part where the state is taking care of the levee right now. How much is that?
It's about 5 miles.
5 miles. And so is there, compare and contrast, how well are they taking, the state, I say they, taking care of that section of the 5 miles of our levees compared to how these two districts are taking care of them at this point?
So that's a great question. And bottom line, they do a great job. The state of California does a great job. That said, I was here in 1997, and I was here in 2017 doing flood fighting. In 1997, I was representing the state of California. And as you may recall, there weren't enough state employees to flood fight, operate in that catastrophic event. And what happened, I mean, I saw it, many of you did, but for LD1, who just, fired up an army of volunteers and local help because this is their lives and their livelihoods, this part of the basin might not have come out as well as it did, all things considering what happened on the other side of the river. Similarly, in 2017, the state, again, does a great job, but additional work was done in MA3, not by the maintenance area, but by Sabufka. Mm-hmm. What turned out from that event is that a big rock berm was placed in State Maintenance Area 3 by Sabufka and Levee District 1. And it was fortunate because later on, the Corps of Engineers excavated that same levee and they found voids in that levee. I mean, voids this big around, about 8 feet long, but for that kind of local initiative, things might not have gone as well as they did, similar to 1997. So it's a nuanced answer, I know, to your question. Mm-hmm. The state does a great job. They're dedicated. My only point here is that if your lives and livelihoods are protected, it might be a little bit more focused effort.
Exactly. And I think that's, I'm glad that you described it that way because sometimes the state can do good things, but locally, I think participating with Sutter Butte's flood control in the past and knowing District, Levee 1 and 2 and the work that they've been, or 9, excuse me, Levee 1 and 9, the work that they've been doing has improved the quality of the levees and the security of those levees. Now, my last question is, if people were to say no, like for whatever reason, which I hope that they say yes, that's what I'm asking. But if were to say no, the state, what did that formula look like? For them to be charged the assessment, because if the state, it's either you pay the assessment to these local folks who are caring and, community minded, or the state's gonna collect the assessment. So is it the same formula to what they come up with, the expense on the assessment, or is it different?
So that's another great question. And I'll just speak from experience from where state maintenance areas have been formed, and that is that the state, for their part, Sutter Yard's a great organization, Department of Water Resources, great organization, but they are a little bit handcuffed so that when, under the water code, when they come in and basically they become the default organization for O&M, they're constrained about what they can, in effect, get out of benefiting properties. Now, unilaterally, they assess benefiting properties. They determine. There's no Prop 218 election. Property owners don't get a say in this. But again, they're sort of the default position. That's the reason it is the way it is. So they also cannot, for example, budget going forward like Drew does every year. He's got to prepare a budget. He's got to present it before a public board and public meeting and explain. Well, the state can't do that. They just make a prediction, assuming there's, there may or may not be a flood. They cannot sort of life cycle manage, for example, materials, equipment that wear out, that go away, big erosion repairs. Drew can't do that. He's got a budget and make assumptions about erosion repairs he knows are going to happen, equipment he knows is going to wear out, so he can budget in a way looking forward. The state, because of the way the law is written, they have to budget in arrears. And that's why in 2017, many of you saw, there's a very low assessment. 2017 hits, huge flood fights. And then over ensuing years or year, the rates go up several times in order to pay back because they have to budget in arrears. That's very difficult for small landowners, obviously, because you're seeing rates cycling. At the end of the day, again, they provide adequate services, but as I described earlier, there's a difference when it's Sacramento or your next door neighbor maintaining your levee.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments from the council? All right. Mike, thank you. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate this. I think the big takeaways is local control is better than non-local, and vote often. Thank you. All right. We will now move to agenda item 5, which is Feathers to Farms program. And Mr. McIntyre and Ms. Anderson, you have the floor.
Well, now to the serious stuff. Thank you for having me, Mayor Shaw and council members. So my name is Megan Anderson. I'm the manager of Sutter Animal Services Authority. And recently, we have started a Feathers to Farms program. So the challenge that we identified initially was the overpopulation of feral roosters, hens, and chicks within the city limits of Yuba City and Sutter County. So the goals for our program are to minimize the overpopulation of feral chickens throughout the city in highly populated areas. Our goal is to relocate feral chickens to healthy, rural, suitable homes. Living in parking lots and, being fed scraps is not exactly an ideal situation for poultry, so you can see that can be an issue. So our specific project challenges initially when we started this were public opinion, consistent messaging. Part of what we're doing with the consistent messaging is staying focused on just one person relaying the message to members of the public. At this time, that's me. Capturing the chickens, we've tried 2 different ways, and we've identified that netting is much easier. Finding partners. Initially, we weren't sure if that was going to be troublesome for us, but it was something that we identified. And staffing allocation and the amount of time that we could spend on a project such as this. Funding was a project challenge that we identified, as well as temporary holding at our facility. So on that topic right now, I could definitely say that as far as public opinion and what I've received has been probably 80% positive, 90% positive. Usually if I get an email or a phone call or someone stops me on the street, they're not in full understanding of what the plan is, what the goal is. And so they're worried that we're going to collect all the chickens in town and euthanize them all. But that's not the goal. That's never been the goal. So once I'm able to talk about the facts, it's received well, and they get excited about it. The capturing, so far, we've gone out 3 different times, and we've caught 75 total, and we've rehomed 75 total. It's not easy. There was also a question about whether or not we are able to take the chicks. If there are chicks, we won't take the hen unless or the mother hen unless all the chicks go with her. So just wanted to make that point. And then the mother and hen, or the mother and chicks, are all relocated together. I'll talk about funding later. Staffing. So it usually takes about 2 to 3 staff members we've found, and anywhere between, 2 to 4 hours. We initially tried to start off with like a feeding station to gather the chickens and to hopefully have them walk into a feeding station type kennel and then close the doors on them. However, our problem that we ran into was that before we would get there, the chickens had already been fed. So we did put signs up about the free feeding ordinance, and we're also communicating that to the public, but a lot of people didn't know that. So then we started to use nets. At first, it was alarming people that we would hurt the chickens by using a net. However, they're just loud animals, and so again, I would just be out there. I would always have my educational material. I don't know if any of you have seen the flyers, but we have some flyers talking about the program, and I just talk about it. And so with us being real straightforward about what we're doing and the goal being real straightforward and simple, it's very easy to talk to the public about, and it becomes a lot less scary to the members of the public once we've talked about it. The temporary holding at our facility has not been for long because we're able to get the chickens out rather quickly. I've had a great success in finding adopters. And so at this point, I hope I can collect enough chickens to share with everyone. But it sounds like people have really big hearts in our area and want to see these chickens thrive in a different environment that's more conducive to their lifestyle that it should be. One of the challenges that we also ran into when speaking to a local business was the fact that they had trees right up against their business, and it's actually it's a hotel. And so when I spoke with the property owner or manager, we discussed the expansion that would be coming with their business and the fact that maybe they should cut some of those trees down. So for things like high trees, we're not going to be able to catch a chicken in a really tall tree. But I just wanted to put that out there and let you know that, we're trying our best, but we can't fly. So, let's see. So the current plan is pretty much what we're doing now. We're communicating with the public, we're educating them. We're informing the public about the free feeding ordinance. We've utilized social media, and that has helped tremendously. A lot of the people that call me about the chickens have read something in like the Territorial Dispatch, or they saw something online, or their friends shared something. So that's working well. Other avenues we might want to look at to, again, utilize the outreach portion of this all would be like the summer stroll or something like that. So this is the educational material that we've put out there. We wanted to make it really clear and get straight to the point. They're just some of the quick facts that you need to know. There's a free feeding ordinance. The city doesn't own the chickens. If anyone wants to, pick up a handout, I'd be happy to share some. So originally the budget was $25,000. But after becoming a professional at this, no, I'm just kidding. After we've kind of got our bearings and whatnot, we don't anticipate spending above $11,000. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Megan, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for letting us know what's going on. It looked like a happy chicken in the brochure, so it was smiling. You got a close up. I really like that. So no, what you guys doing is great. I've had nothing but positive feedback myself. As much as we like chickens, I grew up on a farm. We had chickens. I mean, we had a lot. They belong in a rural area.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of complaints from businesses here. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the businesses that I've been approached by. And they're definitely appreciative. So I'll open it up to any other comments or questions. Vice Mayor.
Through the mayor. Thank you, Megan. Thank you for taking this on. And thank you, Mr. McIntyre, as well. This is one of those tough ones, but, as an elected official and a leader of the community, our job is to look out for our businesses, our small businesses. And when they're complaining that this is a problem, we can do one of two things. We can either do something about it, or we just ignore or do something about it. And so we chose to do something about it. When we have a motel that's reimbursing patrons 20 and 30 of them a month, that's a problem. That's a problem. So thank you for taking this on. Just one question: Has anybody have you had any new interest in people coming forward wanting to home them since the program has started?
Yes. So each week I've received, a few more. I'd say the first week it was, I had a pretty good list. And then last week, I think I had 2 people. So I'm very careful to make sure that I'm fielding the calls with a real strong effort to make our mission clear and make sure that the people adopting from us are respectful of the program. And I have to tell you, I've got an individual who recently adopted from us, and he owns over 124 acres, and we recently received a video of the chickens, and he quarantined the chickens at first when he first received them. He was being really responsible and doing the things that he needed to do to, blend them in with his own flock. And, they're out there free range and pretty much living the chicken dream.
Not having to worry about cars.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think that I ever thought I would be having conversations about chickens like this. However, seeing it and, really standing behind something that I felt good about, being an animal lover, it was actually very rewarding to see the videos of these chickens just looking like happy chickens. And, you know, they're from Yuba City, so some of them come up to the people and greet them. I've got one person who said that they climb up onto his arms and perch. So, you know, I think if we could do it anyway, I think we're definitely meeting everyone in the middle, and I think we can feel proud of it.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
I have to. Megan, the $11,000 to $25,000 for the program, how many chickens how many chickens, sounds like the beginning of a joke, but how many does that anticipated to rehome for that amount of money?
So the funding was one originally, and I could break it down for you if you'd like, but basically the communication plan in general, just our plan, that was $3,000 to work with a team on that. And then I'd say the majority of the planning at this point is, or what I think will be the most expensive is the overtime for my staff members, which I've allocated for $5,000 at this point. And you know, you have to remember these are officers that are working standby shifts and then coming in early to help out with this project. Materials and supplies. So that would be the kenneling to house the chickens while they're temporarily at our facility, as well as the poultry containers that we collect them in, nets, and then gas for the trucks. So that's basically what it is.
Is there
don't have a
is there a target number of chickens? Like, how do you know when you're done?
So basically, we've identified certain areas, and we've also been in contact with multiple businesses. And if they've asked for our help, I've had them sign, you know, waivers and request our assistance. But then at that point, once we're on the property, we pretty much have to figure out what we're dealing with. You know, I can be on one property and see 20 chickens, you know, right across the street from me, but I don't have access to that property. So there's this delicate balance of, you know, trespassing, but then also helping the individuals that need help. The other thing is, for instance, the Winco parking lot, you know, you've got the Highway 99 busy Franklin Road. And so we're really trying to be cautious and careful that we don't push anything into the roads. You know, we're really trying to think carefully about everything and then identify, okay, well, maybe this area over here is a good spot. So just in the Winco area alone, that was the 75. So now we're going to be moving to a different location for a little while. And then we'll go from there. And there's multiple businesses in that Winco shopping center.
So we don't really have a specific number of chicken. Okay, that's fine.
I have a huge goal, but no, I don't know. I don't have a number.
But the intent and the goal does not include eliminating
No.
chickens, but just keeping them down to a manageable level.
Yes.
A couple million.
With that, Mr.
all
McIntyre, I see
good.
you step to the podium there.
Oh, all right.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just wanted to thank Megan and her staff for taking this on. This isn't something they signed up for necessarily, nor has Animal Services ever provided this service. So we are learning as we go. But I do want council to be aware of that budget number does not just represent the city of Yuba City. The city of Yuba City is part of a JPA that represents Sutter County, city of Live Oak, and of course the city of Yuba City. City of Live Oak, I anticipate we'll be getting a call from them or their businesses at some point requesting help as well. And so we anticipated that. So I just wanted to make sure council understood that budget and that number was to represent the Sutter County as a whole, which is approximately 700 square miles. So that was it.
Right. Right. Any other questions? All right.
Through the mayor, last comment. I just love the chickens go wild. What is it? Wild? We're
Rooster
wild.
Farms?
We're wild about chickens.
Oh, we're wild about chickens, yeah.
Thank you, Megan, for doing that. I appreciate you and your team.
I'm wild about chickens.
Thank you very much.
Megan, thank you for being here. I think one of the last things you said that we need to make sure our citizens are made aware of that you were running across there is we're only going onto property that it's private property that they invite us on. We're not just stepping onto uninvited property. So you're working with the businesses, and I think it's crucial for people to know that you are working together with them. So thank you.
No problem.
All right. Lots of presentations tonight. So, okay, let's move to agenda item 6. This is the appearance of interested citizens. You're welcome and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment is taken on items listed on the agenda when they are called. Now that public comment is on items not listed on the agenda, and we will consider them at this time. Comments on controversial items may be limited, and large groups are encouraged to select representatives to express the opinions of the group. Members of the public will have 3 minutes to speak, and written requests received at least 24 hours prior to the meeting will be allotted 5 minutes to comment. We do have one written request this evening, and that's for Mr. Tej Man. And Tej, this is the podium for you to speak at here, sir. Yes, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I'm here to talk about the park naming. Is it on? All right. I found out about the park in the newspaper and many phone calls I received after that and learned about the name. And I thought there was a procedure and we get public input, but it was none of that. It was just, we heard about it and I think it was based on one person's suggestion and it was on the consent agenda. It was not even on a item. Historically, when we name parks, schools, I remember when we were naming River Valley High School, we came up with many names. The community was involved, the media was involved, and we took a while and we came up with a name that we're all proud of and we are happy with. In this case, nothing like that. One person suggested it that, hey, name the park after my father, and it's put on the agenda and it's done. I don't know if there's a formal procedure. I simply don't know. But a lot of people were disappointed. They called me, and some of them are here tonight in the audience. We would like the council to reconsider and get community's input. See what people want. It's just too important to name parks, schools, without getting community input. These names that we name, they stay forever. River Valley High School is a name now and part of our community. It stays forever. And I think the taxpayers have the right to make that and have a say in it. We have a rich history. We have a lot of great historical figures in the community. I mean, don't just look at it last 20, 30 years. Go back when the city was founded, who was around then, and who made great contributions to make this community what we have today. If you wish to have a Sikh or Punjabi community name, in which a lot of us would wish, we can give those suggestions. Historical figures that we're very proud of, that we would like to see as an option. But we also have names that are not Sikhs, not Indians, but people in our community. We were honoring the Millers today. Great people, great community business. Siller's been around for a long time. Tumber family, Rye family was the first one long time ago that brought a lot of people, sponsored a lot of people and brought people to this community. Barkhouse, our mayor several times, and we actually had promised him that we would name the next park after him. And again, there are many figures, personalities in the Sikh community, in the Punjabi community that we could suggest. We have many great people nationally, locally, internationally that we could name a park after. When I see, just this week I was reading a park named somewhere in California. It was named after a known figure, person who was part of history maybe a few decades ago. Let's give our residents a chance to name, give their input, to name a park that they could all be proud of. And 20, 30 years from now, we can all say, "Oh, that's a great name." You know, before I knew about the name, I used to call it Harder Park because it's in the Harder community, in the Harder shopping center, the development. So let's come up with a name that we can all be proud of. Let's give the community a chance. Let's not name it after one person because one person suggested it. I really would like to get our input. I don't know what our next step is. I would like to be advised on what that next step is. Where do we go from here? I know there's no appeal. Is it legal action? What do we have to do to get the public to have a say in the naming of a park in their community that they're funding? The taxpayers are going to be funding this park. I understand it's I believe $3.7 million to improve. And even that's not enough. There's communities being asked to fund the handicap park equipment. I see my 5 minutes are up. Every one of these gentlemen could speak for 5 minutes, but I've been in that chair and I know you don't want, you rather go on to the rest of the meeting and go home to your family. But I speak for these gentlemen that are sitting here. We need to have someone that we can honor, respect, and that the communities buy in. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. We're going to go ahead and take the next speaker that turned in a card, and that's Raji Tumber.
Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know Tejman would be here to speak on the very thing that concerns me. Greetings to council members. I'm Raji Tumber, born and raised here in Yuba City. I have a big knowledge of what our Sikh community has been involved with and contributed to this city and Yuba County, Sutter County, Yuba County. So I would like to submit Mr. Bob Barkhouse's name to be considered in the naming of the new park that will be built on or close to Harder Road. I was not aware of the timing of submissions for naming the park. I hope that the council will take the time to reconsider the name. I would like for you to consider taking a deep dive to naming a precious park in our city after a person that that person should be considered by everybody a person of absolute living a life of truth and sincerity, and we would all want that we would all want an honorable name for eternity. Barkhouse represents that to me. He was personal friends with our family, my father, and was a great advocate for advancing the growth of this town, contributed a lot, cared about everybody. He cared and listened to all aspects of a person's opinion. Unbiased was he. Mr. Barkhouse contributed a great deal of time and effort to the development and positive progression of the growth of our city. You guys are young in the game. He was a few years back. And I think that you can look at what his history has contributed to this community. He was a man of great integrity and honesty at all times. He was a friend to all that met him. He cared and listened to all aspects of a person's opinion. I do hope that you would reconsider with sincere honesty a man that speaks with truth, honor, and integrity. Bob Barkhouse is a name that should be placed in that park. I speak as an individual who is truly invested in our community. My roots run deep here. My uncle came here in 1923, illegally, walked through Mexico to California, and lived and settled in Yuba City. My father came by lottery in 1949 and settled in Yuba City. And they were men of honor. And I expect a park to be named after a person of honor and truth. Thank you for allowing the time for my submission. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on to the next speaker card, I'm just going to handle these in groups. Does anyone else care to speak on the naming of the park?
They just asked me to summarize what our thought was on this, so I'm not sure.
I'll give you 30 seconds, Mr. Mann.
not
You've
sure
already
what
had
the-
your 5.
Thank you, Dave. I'm not sure what the procedure is, if Diana would be getting hold of us.
We'll get to those in a minute. Do you have a statement?
No.
Okay. Then is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay. We'll go ahead and address the concerns over the park name first. First of all, there is a procedure. It's public procedure. There is a policy. Going back to the comments about Mr. Barkhouse, I don't think there's a council member up here that doesn't love and respect that man and what he did for this city. And there's some misinformation that's out there, and that was brought a couple of meetings ago by former Vice Mayor Cardoza, who came into chambers and, said we were going to name the next park. That was not what was actually promised to Mr. Barkhouse. He was instrumental in Bridge Street. He was instrumental in that new bridge that replaced it. That goes back to his college days. And by all means, of my colleagues, if I get out of line, you guys correct me here, please. But with that, it was fitting and just that a park near that bridge, if it could be done, to be dedicated, named in his honor. And they actually did try that with the Veterans Park right there at the base, and were unable to get that done. So that was walked through, and that was misinformation by the former vice mayor. So I will tell you now, if something else comes up in the future, would love to name something else after Mr. Barkhouse. Incredible man. He did a lot for this city. As far as Harder Park, there is already a Harder Park. It's directly behind the Sutter Memorial Museum back here. And, this wasn't about just one person bringing things forward. It's on public record. We had a process that was followed. That's a public process. This park has been in the works for many years. And at any time, anyone could have brought something forward. And a group of individuals brought that forward. As far as being able to reconsider under the rules of order, we are beyond the point of reconsideration because we've already passed more than one meeting since the vote was taken. And I will ask Mr. Chaffin, our city attorney, to finish addressing this with our policy as why the park is named and it's done at this time. So,
thank you, Mr. Mayor. All the procedures have been followed. The city's procedures, the adopted procedures have been followed in this matter. The one thing, once action has been taken, which it has in this case, and once the time for a motion for reconsideration has passed, which it has, the city's policy states that only under extraordinary circumstances involving a negative image may the naming be revoked. So it's not a renaming process, it's a revocation process. And so there would have to be those extraordinary circumstances reflecting negatively upon the city. And based upon the comments that I've heard tonight, I don't necessarily think that's the case at this point. Thank you.
Okay. With that, is there any other comments from the council concerning that matter? All right, then we will move on to the next.
I contacted the city the next day.
Mr. Mann, if you have any further questions, I will direct them to our city manager. This is not a debate time with things on the agenda.
Not debating, but I just wanted to, for the record, I did contact the city the next day after the meeting when it was named. So this is the first meeting. I was told that the other meeting was a special meeting for the homeless. So what you just stated is not. I'm not sure what to say. If I'm not in agreement with that, it's not factual because this is the first meeting since the meeting. I contacted Diane
Mr. Mann,
on Thursday.
Again, this is not the time for debate. I understand. Please take this conversation offline with myself or the city manager or our attorney if you'd like. We're moving on to Michelle Smith Baker. It's time for you to Barker. What did I say? Baker. Sorry, Michelle, you have the floor.
Come on, I was your client.
I know.
Real quick, I am Michelle Smith Barker of Smith Ranches on the Yuba County side. I am the landowner that is directly above the large cleanup that you just did on the Sutter County property that's over on my side of the river in Yuba County with your City of Yuba City sewer ponds and the Linda Water District sewer ponds that are on Sutter County land. And the reason I'm here today is you had that March 29th meeting, and I was not aware of that. I follow City of Marysville agenda since I'm a resident there. Coincidentally, I had personally had a meeting with all of the farmers and council members, all departments, just like you guys did here. And we bring James Gallagher to our meeting to take our message back to the deaf ears of our governor over the homeless issue and so on. And we did that just a couple days before your meeting. The cleanup that I had witnessed, as we all know and was reiterated here, with the 40 campers with one taking service. So we've got 39 people out doing the same thing they were doing before. The 109 cars that were right below my ranch, 15 motor homes, 710 tons of trash. I was down there last night to look to prepare for today. And it's only been, what, 8-9 days since you guys have left? There's 2 motor homes down there already parked. You have an area where they've been stripping copper. There's trash all over. People have been dumping trash, lots of tracks and everything. What I'm going to suggest is, and this is what I have learned because we farm on Hamilton, Smartsville Road, and Feather Boulevard. Before you hit those issues, those areas and so on, you need to barricade and block them off. And it's not with the little 6-foot barricades that you buy. That's just fun for them. You've got to go buy the 20-foot ones that weigh 8,500 pounds. And I did run into Eric Ball and Ben Moody on the way out one night at our ranch, and we had talked about Myrna Avenue is a very big problem. My road, Island Road, which was used by the city and the counties and everyone for that cleanup for that 6 weeks or so on. We do have lock gates. We have cameras. We're next to Elite Security. Myrna Avenue is where you can get your groceries delivered, get Uber pickup, pizza delivered. They just walk up and over the levee. So barricades at your property line would certainly be so helpful. As I was there last night and at the very edge of your property, I watched in the 5 minutes I was sitting there, 5 people come in. They have access below, and I know it's on the Yuba County, but they're all heading your way. And the large barriers and trenching with excavators is what will keep them out and what ends up protecting us up above. Also, the homeless that we deal with is always illegal camping, illegal trespassing, and it's always criminal activity. It's not the other types of homeless that just want to be homeless. Ours is all with 109 cars being removed. I mean, obviously we know what was going on down there. Also, I mean, I take issue and I don't know, is that my time? Okay.
Can you wrap it up in about 30 seconds?
Yes. Where I see fault on my side of the river for mine is and I know you're allowed to give away your free food as a church and a business, and I understand that. But when you're doing that and private property is right over the levee, you are encouraging that type of activity. And these people that are going and taking dog food and water to these animals and stuff, you're only encouraging them to be right out on private property and city and county properties. I feel there needs to be a consolidated place for disbursement of food and services like that. You can see who they are, make them sign in, try to do the spay and neutering, and have a better effect. I did check with Jackie Silman at the Water Agency and also the Yuba-Sutter Resource Conservation District. They have grants that would be available to possibly help with the cost of this, and I don't know if that had been, I didn't want to wait till homeless meeting number 2 because that's 6 weeks away. And what I've seen within the 8 days you've been gone, it's going to be the same thing.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Who do we need to get her in contact with for those particular things, Ms. Langley?
So Mr. Moody's here in the audience right now. Ben Moody is in the audience right now. You met
I did
Ben?
meet him that one night in the pickup, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if you guys could follow up, that would be awesome. And then with that, I encourage you to come back to all the workshops because ultimately what we're trying to bring in by the 3rd or 4th is all the third-party partners, the churches, the nonprofits, the businesses, everything, because we have to understand what kind of impact we all collectively are having together in dealing with the issue. So, but thank you.
Everyone is working tirelessly. It's, there just isn't enough people. I had been making phone calls since last July to get, somebody down there to take care of it, and they showed up in February. No sooner we have a fire up north, there goes my contact for code enforcement for Sutter County.
Thank you.
So it's difficult.
Thank you, Michelle.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right, any more comments under things not on the agenda? Any more comments on things not under the agenda? Okay. Moving on to the consent calendar. Oh, online? Do we have any?
No public comment.
Thank you. Okay. Now we'll move on to consent calendar. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time that council votes on the motion unless members of the city council, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual action. Would anyone on the public like to speak to these items? If so, come to the podium, clearly state your name and address for the record. Okay. Hearing none. Any comments online?
No public comment.
All right, bring it back to the council for comments or action.
Through the mayor.
Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve agenda items 7 through 13.
I have a motion by the Vice Mayor.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Boomgarden. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. And the ayes have it. All right. Do we need to take a 3-minute recess? We will take a 5-minute recess and reconvene at 7:49. Okay. I will call us back to order at 7:51. The next item is the Yuba-Sutter Economic Development District 2020 CEDS. Appendices 1, 4, 5 updates in 2021 CEDS annual performance and evaluation. And it was supposed to be Brenda, but we have Cynthia with us tonight. Cynthia, you have the floor.
I need my slide presentation brought up. She's taking a short break here. This is just moving. All righty. For those that don't know you, my name is Cynthia Roderick, and I am the CEDS Committee Chairperson. And the CEDS stands for Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. And I'm here to present it and seeking an adoption for resolution approval for the appendix updates 1, 4, and 5, and the CEDS 2021 evaluation. Some of you may know or may not be known, the CEDS is a document that needs to be annually updated and approved through resolution through the 6 jurisdictions, the counties of Yuba and Sutter, the cities of Live Oak, Marysville, Wheatland, and the city of Yuba City. And it's a result of local planning process and is designed to guide economic growth in the Yuba-Sutter region. Its purpose is to create jobs, foster a more stable and diverse economy, and improve the living conditions for the residents of the region. It provides a mechanism for coordinating the efforts of individuals, organizations, local governments, and private industry concerned with economic development. And the annual update of the CEDS Performance Report, is required by the Economic Development Administration Assistance Program under its Public Works, Economic Adjustment, and most planning grants. This evaluation document represents the goals and objectives of the Yuba-Sutter Economic Development District and is comprised of the 6 jurisdictions that I previously had mentioned. So I'm just going to go through this a little bit. We're first going to talk a little bit regionally, and then we'll come down to Yuba City projects. So despite the pandemic, we did have some positive results over 2021. In Sutter County, there was 243 new establishments in the county of Sutter, and most of those were in Yuba City. Our gross domestic product actually increased by 7%, and that is completely different than what the state of California and the United States as a nation. We increased theirs GDP contracted. We're attributing this to the fact that I think people were forced to stay home and they shopped more locally. And this is despite of the fact that agriculture did have some substantial decreases. We still improved our GDP. Oops, going the wrong way. So the poverty levels remain stable. The median household income did increase though, 6.5%. This is really positive for our area. It makes the area more attractive for new businesses to move to the region. We're still struggling with education attainment. I expect to see these numbers change. I know Dr. Dotson is really working with the high schools and really making motions towards this. So I do expect these numbers to change substantially. They usually run a little bit behind. The high school diplomas, those obtaining those, it did drop. Graduates, it's about stable. There was some college with no degree increase, associate degree, and postgraduate degrees did increase. So some notable goals to improve and modernize infrastructure. Yuba City, the Bridge Street corridor improvements, conceptual design, as you all know, was done, and it's now into construction. The Walton Avenue complete streets improvement. The final design is in progress and construction's anticipated to begin this year and completed by 2023. Excuse me. I brought the Yuba-Sutter Transit figures in just because this is a regional transit system, and they did purchase a zero-emission bus facility in Yuba County, but that affects us in the Yuba City area as well. And Yuba City approved the development plan for Richland Village Phase 2, a proposed residential apartment complex of 176 units. So you're working towards affordable housing. Yuba City pedestrian trail and railroad right-of-way conversion. You have received funding to complete a feasibility study in 2022, and hopefully that will get completed, and we'll be able to move on with that pedestrian trail. And then I did want to input that Caltrans did complete 5 projects within the region, and that brought a capital infusion to Yuba-Sutter of over $107 million to our region in improvements. And then I want to talk a little bit about the pandemic capital infusion. Sutter County Small Business Emergency Economic Grant Relief Program. There was 5 rounds of funding over the last 2 years, and it was for businesses and nonprofits. There was no repayment required. 231 grants totaling $2,600,000 plus. 104 of those 200 grants were to Yuba City businesses, totaling $2,387,000, and 10 grants went to Live Oak businesses. SBA put out a substantial payroll protection loan program for those businesses up to $150,000. There was 1,022 businesses assisted in Sutter County, and 867 were Yuba City businesses. There was over $56 million funded, and $50 million was forgiven out of that $56 million. This represented 9,700 jobs in our area. For businesses who had larger payroll, there was 248 businesses assisted. 200 of those were Yuba City businesses. There was nearly 113 million funded, and nearly 93 million of that money was forgiven. And this represented 14,700 plus jobs in the area. The EIDL program, Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, there was 318 businesses assisted. 278 were Yuba City businesses. 28 were Live Oak. It was just over 42 million were funded. And of that 42 million, nearly 58 or 5,800,000 was granted. And then there was the California Relief Program. There was 533 businesses in Sutter County that were assisted, totaling just over 6 million, and 15 nonprofits. Of the 533, 466 were Yuba City businesses, totaling 5,389,000, and 28 were from Live Oak as well. So there was a lot of capital infusion in the area, and I think that probably also relates to the GDP a little bit. So very short, very sweet. I apologize that Brenda could not be here. She broke her leg just before Christmas, and she can't stand on her feet too long. So, but I'm open for questions. If you have any, I'll answer them to the best of my ability. I did want to mention that the EDC had put together a pandemic plan. We received EDA funding, and it's up on our website for your review. The first 14 pages are the most important. The other pages is just backup information, but it's there if you wish to review a pandemic plan. We did a scorecard. The region is about 75% prepared for disaster. There's still pockets of areas that we need to work on, and we hope we'll get input from you folks. And then secondly, we were approached by Yuba and Sutter counties to put together apply for very small micro business grant program. We hope to launch this at the end of May. This is for businesses that are 50,000, gross income of 50,000, and have less than 6 employees. And again, we'll reach out to you for our outreach efforts. These are like your single hairdresser, your barbers, your cart people, maybe food trucks, and of that nature. The funds available is $2,500. We'll have funding for 41 businesses in Sutter County and 32 in Yuba County. And that's my presentation. If you have any questions.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions from the council? Go ahead.
Through the mayor, thanks for the presentation, especially the numbers of the outreach to the businesses. You guys were busy doing a lot of things during that time and kept a lot of businesses afloat. So I appreciate seeing that information.
Any other questions from the council or comments? Any from the audience? About online?
No public comment.
Back to the council for action.
To the mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we adopt the resolution approving the 2021 Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Annual Performance Report updates to the Appendices, et cetera.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Espandola. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Harris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to agenda item 15, which is the transfer and indemnification agreement between the city of Yuba City and Sabufka. And this is our city manager, Dana Langley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First of all, I'd like to thank Michael Bissett for sticking it out for the rest of the meeting to get to this item. All right, so in 2007, Sabufka was formed as a joint powers authority, of which Yuba City is a member. Also in 2007, October, the City Council adopted levee impact fees with the purpose of providing 200-year, 100-year level flood protection for new development. And then in 2010, property owners within the Sabufka area approved an assessment district that also collected funds for the improvement of the Feather River West Levee as well as Sutter Bypass improvements. Sabufka reviewed the city's levee impact fee and proposed to implement a regional levee fee program. And so this is within the last couple of years that they proposed a regional levee fee program. And the proposed regional levee fee program fee would be quite a bit less than what the city's levee impact fee was. And so in July of 2021, City Council rescinded the city's levee impact fee. So Sabufka's assessment district was targeted toward funding improvements in protecting the urban area first. So they started, to the north, they improved along Yuba City. And so there's still a remaining portion at the south end of the basin and then along the Sutter Bypass. And so Sabufka, as they did that, they funded those improvements that improved the levees for the urban area. And so what Sabufka is requesting that the city transfer the funds that have been collected through the levee impact fee to Sabufka, in which they will put that money towards improvements that benefited Yuba City, thereby freeing up an equivalent amount to put towards the remainder of the improvements. So the city currently has about 2.2 million available. Staff's recommending transfer of 1.7 million at this time. I would reassess the remaining 521,000 once we get through. We still have the process of getting through the FEMA mapping, and we just want to make sure that we are not going to need to do any additional studies or anything that would relate to specifically Yuba City development. So with that, I'm requesting that council adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a transfer and indemnification agreement between the city and Sabufka to transfer the $1.7 million. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, any questions from the public? How about any online?
No public comment.
All right, then before I bring it back to the council, Mike, thank you so much for all the work that you guys have done. And just wanted to acknowledge, and again, thank you for sticking through the entire meeting tonight to be here. So I'll bring it back to the council for action.
To the mayor, I move that we adopt, do I need to read it all, city attorney? No? I move, I know, you like story time, Mayor.
Okay, adopt the
resolution.
I have a motion and a second by the vice mayor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, and motion carries. Thank you. We will come back to agenda item 16 now. This is the opportunity for us to discuss with the city manager items that came up tonight that we may want to have brought back to the council at a later date. Are there any comments regarding agenda items that we'd like to have brought back at a future meeting from the council? None? Seeing none across, we will go to our reports, and we will start with the city manager's report.
So not much to report tonight. I do want to prep for the April 19th meeting. We will have a lot on the agenda, as you all know. But just for the public, one of the things that we'll be talking about is water conservation and implementing water conservation measures. And so that's going to impact all of our water customers. So I'm encouraging the public to at least watch that portion of the meeting. And with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Councilmember Baumgarten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 4 things. Homeless workshop, outstanding. Thanks to staff for the diligence and the effort coming forward and really outlining. Got a lot of public comment, positive public comment. I think it really framed what we are doing, which I think a lot of people sometimes don't think we're doing anything. So looking forward to homeless workshop 2. Attended the Chamber's meeting where Chris Champlin from Adventist Health presented on behalf of the hospital. I will report out to council. I also did meet with Mr. Champlin in regards to the Fremont Tower and that property around there. I look forward to those talks continuing. He was definitely aware of the issues over there and definitely interested in partnering with the city where possible, if possible, to address issues that are over there. Councilperson Harris and I continue to meet with reps on Home Key 2.0. Not really much more to report there. We do have consistent meetings. I think this is very fruitful for both sides. And when and if something comes forward, there will be in a much better position to share that with the council. And finally, the mayor's bus tour. Really appreciated the opportunity to present there. It was great to see the outreach and the energy and the interest from the attendants. With that, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Espandola.
Thank you, Mayor. I was able to attend the Feather River Air Quality Management District meeting in person. It was our first one since I've been assigned, which was actually nice to be in a cozy small room with the rest of the group. I did forward to our staff some grants that are available, and I do, I don't know, Councilmember Baumgarten, if you remember or not, we were at an event and community members were asking about additional charging stations for cars, right? So Feather River Air Quality has some grants available for that. And so I forward that on to Ben and Diana to take a look at, and maybe we can make good on some of that work. The strength on that particular grant would be with disadvantaged areas of our community, and they have assigned areas for those grants. So hoping to see if we can get that done for our community. Participated with the Policy Finance Committee through the same district. And just like everyone else, everyone's going through PERS and health insurance reviews. So that's what we ended up discussing. And there's going to be some recommendations made from the Finance Committee at a future air quality district meeting on the changes that are occurring within their staff. One thing that I learned about the actual facility of where this agency is at, their building needs tremendous amount of work, capital improvement. While we were there, the air conditioner was out. Thank goodness it was kind of cool and weather-wise. Then I participated in the Regional Water Authority on the executive committee, and we looked at, I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, but we looked at fiscal budget. Again, you know, the review of it is that on target. There is in process and hasn't been started, but an employee compensation study looking at sourcing that out through some consultants. And really, we dived into all the various legislation that is discussed in another committee that I'm part of, which we meet on state legislation. Once the list is finalized on those legislation outcomes and positions, I'll request and forward that on for all of you to take a look at it. If you have any questions, Diana or myself, we can definitely try to help and answer some of those questions, or talk directly to Jim, who is the executive director. Participated in a one-on-one meeting, I think most of us as a council did, with our fire chief on the emergency operation plan and giving some input and insight on that. I think the homeless workshop was an excellent workshop. There was quite a bit covered. I was extremely impressed with our team on the preparation of that presentation. I think the quality of that really provided insight to parts of it that our community may not be aware, and even some of it was new to me, and that was really helpful. The mayor's tour bus, Mayor Shaw, you did a really great job with our team. I appreciate you including us. It was fun to be at the wastewater treatment plant. There's always quite a bit of nice air quality, pun intended. Trying to lighten it up here. It's been kind of a long first part of our meeting. But I think all the constituents that attended seemed just really thrilled to be part of it and learning, and they learned so much. And I really appreciate your sense of humor on that day, because it was April Fool's Day, and I'm not going to take your joke, because you had a really good one. You did a really good job on that. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I was like, whoa, the mayor did that? Okay. So then with the Association of California Water Agency, ACWA, another favorite new committee that I'm on. Thankfully, all of you approved for me to be appointed on their Region 2 board. The Region 2 board covers Shasta, Sutter, Yuba, Butte, Colusa, Glen, Tehama, and I said Glen again. No, just one Glen. And so I've only attended one meeting with them. We have our next meetings, and they're going to be in May. At the conference. I also participate. I was asked to join the formation of a foundation steering through ACWA. They're developing a nonprofit, and so I'm part of that committee with that process. Then they also developed a DEI work group similar to what Councilmember Harris is doing with SACOG in the diversity equity area of the work. ACWA is exploring and moving into that to build upon the workforce that many of us need in the water industry area. And lastly, I would like to say thank you so much to our city staff for their tremendous amount of work in putting together a grant that we were able to submit in December, and all of us were able to accomplish this with just teamwork effort like I have not experienced before, and I'm very honored to be part of that. We were funded through Department of Water Resource, $6.3 million for an ASR, which is an aquifer storage recovery, and we were able to secure this underground water storage because we work closely with our public works and utility and the leadership and the team. And in particular with Diana and Ben, we were able to leverage the advocacy and the work through ACWA and also through RWA and the State Water Board. And I just want to thank the chairman of the State Water Board, Joaquin, and the vice chair, Dee, who were instrumental in helping us secure this grant. It was very competitive, and we were in the first funding cycle. And we're working towards the next part of it, which is the outfall diffuser, which is a $40 million project that we're going to work towards bringing that in and get on the list by the end of this year. So that's all I have to report. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Folks, before I talked about the homeless workshop, I just want to reiterate that it was very positive experience, but very good and very well put together. workshop, and above and beyond just information that was presented, I think the energy and the positive attitude that was in that room at the time, it was very good, and I'm looking forward to the second one and the ongoing work in that endeavor. Let's see, Councilmember Boomgard mentioned Habitat for Humanity calls for Home Key. We're continuing to do that, and also the bus tour. Is a privilege to participate in that over at Hooper Ranch, those new homes over there. And I share the opinion that the attendees were very excited, very happy to be there, engaged, and it was nothing but a good thing. So it was really good. I did participate in a meeting with our consultants as far as the bike path goes, the feasibility study. We're working on progress towards that. The common theme is the challenges involved with not only UP right-of-way, but how are we going to get over or under or around the intersection of 20 and 99. So the biggest thing to do is just jump in and see what happens, and you make the suggestion, at least get something on paper, but they're working hard on that. I did do the Parks and Rec put together the Wilderness Run up there in our city park up there on the river bottoms. I did that. It was, I think, 3 miles. Very nice. I'd never been that deep into that park, and I didn't realize right here in Yuba City, and it talk about a wilderness run. They're right. But it was good. Pretty good participation. Fun time. SACOG, always a lot going on. We're doing a lot of preparations for cap to cap and getting things ready for that. Also, our pre-trip, to the day before, we're going to go up and tour a few neighborhoods in Virginia. The main thing for our last meeting was a workshop on the program Engage. It's called Engage, Empower, and Implement, which, among all the other programs in our concepts moving forward, our framework, but we've also allocated an extra $3 million towards this program, which is aimed at getting community input, specifically from underserved communities that have been overlooked historically, whether on purpose or not, that we want to go out of our way to get their input, get their participation, see how we could better serve them through programs and projects, transportation related. It's, again, engage, empower, and implement. So looking forward to being a part of that as well. That is it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Attended Regional Transit, and we took a look at the preliminary budgets for 22-23. Again, most of it's just trying to apply for and retrieve some grants for their facility in Yuba County. Was asked and participated in the ad hoc committee for hiring a firm that's going to move the transit organization into the next 5-year, 10-year cycle. That was interesting because a lot of these applicants, it was done over Zoom, but a lot of these applicants were very well organized. The recurring theme is how do we come out of COVID, because the ridership is down everywhere. And then one of the specialties that they're looking for is how do they go from a traditional fleet to an electric one. And so we did choose one. We're going to move our recommendation to the board for the next meeting, and we're going to vote on that. Attended the homeless workshop. Can't say enough about that. I thought the paper did a great job the following day. I got phone calls, lots of interest on that, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Sat down with the fire chief, discussed the EOP process, had some ideas, learned a lot, and very productive meeting. Finally, participated in the mayor's bus tour for District 4. As soon as I found the right stop. But no, it was met with a lot of interest, and it was neat to see community members being engaged and
our community and how it's growing and what's happening. Lastly, I'm looking forward to this Saturday. I'm going to be involved in a fundraiser at the Marysville Cemetery, where I'm going to be Mr. Sampson, which he's got a street named after him. So stay tuned for that. It's one of my organizations that's near and dear to my heart, is taking care of that place. So that's it.
All righty, thank you. I'm going to keep it very brief. Two big things we had this time, which I already mentioned, was the workshop. Looking forward to that coming back and being really productive with the next one involving the county, and we'll begin to prepare for that one. The end goal is to bring everybody together to figure out how we're going to collectively address the issue that's facing our community. As well as thank you to all of you for participating in the bus tour. That was absolutely a fun day. I was glad that we were able to do that. And you never know what's going to happen. It happened to be April Fool's, so I gave away 2 cars that day. They were guaranteed to need no fuel and not charging. They'd go as far as you could push them, and they were made by Mattel. So, that was really in a nutshell. Ms. Langley, to you and your entire staff, kudos. You guys came together and stepped up and made the city shine in everything that's been going on in the past 3 or 4 months that you've heard repeated over and over, from the tours with Aqua here, to the bus tour, to the homeless workshop, to just keeping us well informed and keeping this ship steered right. So please pass on many thanks from the mayor to the rest of our team. They're doing a hell of a job. So thank you. With that, I want to say thanks to my colleagues. I've got 2 weeks left in my busy season, and you guys are covering a lot for me, and I do appreciate it, and hope you know that the trust I have in each one of you because I can focus on what I need to do and know you guys have got it in the best interest of the city. So thank you, and I've looked at my calendar, and it gets real busy about the 18th of April. So with that, good suggestion just brought up. Tonight, we will actually close in honor of Senator Don Young, who was instrumental back with Bob Barkhouse in getting the bridge built, all those years later. So we will adjourn in memory of Senator Young.